but we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and we feel as comfortable in the space as possible. So these are written by the non-binary union in Los Angeles. And the first guideline is that we practice healing-centered interactions by being mindful of potentially triggering language and actions and being mindful of our own triggers. Also, remembering that this is not a group therapy space. We're going to seek first to understand, then to be understood. So an example of this is feeling like I feel hurt, I'm important. I also understand that the group is important. I first want to understand the context of the comment that hurt me, then seek for the group to understand why I was hurt by the comment. And then we also want to scrap societal requirements to perform wide social norms, including toxic positivity, neurotypical analytic social norms, class status, etc. Secondly, we are in this space going to practice leaning into discomfort and leaning into challenging conversations. We can do this by gaining awareness of how our intersecting privileges and oppressions inform how we interact with one another, being aware of tone policing and how our own biases may be reenacting oppression in this space, taking space, but also making space, and valuing feedback as an act of generosity and trust by reflecting on feedback when they receive before responding. And lastly, we are going to practice respecting ourselves and each other by speaking with I statements and from our own experiences. So I instead of you. Resisting the urge to compare our neurodiverse journeys, not giving unsolicited advice, staying mindful of pronouns and other gendered language, remembering to tell our own stories, and keeping community members' identities confidential, only sharing with explicit consent. So those are communication guidelines. And I say let's get the ball rolling.
Thank you. Thank you for reading those. Cool. So we're just going to start off like we always do, introducing ourselves, which I realized when you introduced yourself, Laura Melissa, that we usually do it first. I was like, oh yeah, because now somebody's talking and I'm talking and we should say who we are. But we'll introduce ourselves and yeah, my name is Jersey or Jersey Noah. My pronouns are he and or they. They can be used interchangeably. I love Pride Month. I would say I love Pride Month like 75% of the time, which compared to other months is a lot. There's really very little in my background. It's white. It's my wall. And the shirt that I said I've been wearing all week is like beige and has a flag that's rainbow with just a clear heart or a transparent heart in the middle. And my favorite living thing in the world is my dog. And I appreciate everybody doing this, being here and attending in a multitude of ways. I will pass it to Macy.
Hi, my name is Macy. I am an autistic advocate, parent, coach, family coach. Been doing that for over 30 years. I'm a mom of a neurodivergent son and also have many neurodivergent people in my family, cross-generational. Sitting here at my dining table with a blue wall and a painting given to me by my aunt. My pronouns is she, her. Let's see. I am going to be here I'm celebrating Pride Month with other autistic connections, and I'm here to listen and to learn. Yeah, that's it. I'm passing this along to Brandy.
Hi, everyone. Happy Pride. My name is Brandy. My pronouns are she, her. My partner is Matt, and I manage the Chronic Couple on social media. I was late diagnosed as autistic and ADHD a couple of years ago at 38. Something I focus a lot of energy on is the chronic illness aspect of being autistic and the connection that some of us have with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. My top special interest is my dog Scarlet, and or our dog Scarlet. But I just, yeah, I love her so much. And I am a mixed indigenous woman with fair skin and dark blonde hair. I'm sitting at my desk in front of a pink picture with a wire front door, and I have a blue shirt with ruffles. And I think I'm gonna pass it to Lyric.
Hi, thank you. I'm Lyric, maybe known as the neurodivergent rebel. I am a pale-skinned, mixed-race indigenous human with short green hair and shaved sides. I'm literally sitting on a cabinet in my RV as we drive down the road. There's a wooden panel background behind me. Not a lot to see, really. I'm just kind of crouched up here, and there's a window that has the blinds drawn so the light doesn't blind us with sensory issues, myself included, as we're jumping down the road. So yeah, I'm here like bouncing up and down on a cabinet in the corner. My pronouns are they, them. I'm non-binary, so yay. Non-binary human crouching on a cabinet in the corner. Who did I pass it to? I can't see who else is all in the room, so I dialed in on my phone. I'm not used to dialing in on my phone. Is Matt? I'm assuming I know Matt's here, so I can pass it to Matt.
Yeah, I'll happily take it. Thanks, Larry. Hi, my name is Matt. I'm from Spectrum Matt on Instagram. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm autistic and was recently diagnosed with ADHD just this month, actually, or just this last month. My partner is Brandy, and we live in Asheville, North Carolina. My special interest is computers and technology, so if anyone has any problems, please send me a private message on the chat, and I'll be happy to help you out with any problems you have. My background is a gaming little curtain with two little palm tree looking things. I'm wearing a black baseball cap with silver rim glasses, a big fluffy beard, and I will pass it now to Sandra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sandra. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a Black femme with nothing really going on in my background right now because I'm in the middle of moving. I'll be moving Monday. It's 10 o'clock at night here in the UK, so my brain is slowing down, or maybe it'll speed up. I have no idea yet. We'll see how that goes. I wrote for the ADHD Good Life, changed it to ND Narratives, ND.Narratives, Neurodivergent Narratives, just to give me a little bit more feel expansive in what I can write about, because I know a lot more than just ADHD, I guess. Yeah, and I'm just really excited to be here. And yeah, that's all I have for right now in my notes. That's what I'm looking at tonight. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Tiffy. You get to introduce yourself, Tiffany. Turn your mic on. Yeah.
Okay. We're there. I couldn't get it to unmute. All right, Tiffany, pronoun she, her, hers. Black woman. I Grogu sitting in my lap, keeping me company. Bookshelf background, bunch of little knickknacks, clocks, little chalkboard thing that says fidgets and fries. It's backwards to y'all. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a lesson for another video.
It's not backwards. It's not backwards. They flip the camera. We can see it.
Oh, well,
it's only backwards to you.
It's backwards to see. That's why I need people. I need a community to keep me grounded and knowing stuff. I am the voice behind Fidgets and Fries on Instagram. I am a autistic mother, Both of my boys are autistic. Was diagnosed at 18, then again at 35. Also ADHD. I don't talk about it that much because I don't really know. I'll get into that at some point in life. Yeah, and I'm just happy to be here with everybody. And I guess I'll pass it to T. That's the only one left, I think.
Yeah, so I'm going to read for T today. My name is T. I'm a Black autistic 25-year-old AFAB and go by they, them. I run the Instagram Unmasked with 2 N's. Two N's in it. I'm ahead of that. I have auditory processing disorder and use AAC when needed.
Oh, cool. Thank you, everybody. If people in the chat feel like introducing themselves in the chat, please do. Feel free, say anything you'd like. Also, I'm going to type this in the chat now too. Feel free to send questions, so we'll do our best to get to them. So send questions in the chat. What will happen is if people send questions, we'll kind of get to them at the end, but you can send them whenever. And I'm hoping Matt will keep an eye on collecting them. Thank you, Matt. And what I'm going to do is, like last time, I'm going to put 3 questions in the chat at a time because it's a little hard and distracting for me to do every single question. So right now, I just put in 3 questions that we're going to start with. So the first one is, do you feel pride in your neurodivergence and other parts of yourself? What does that look like? I can go. Yeah, please go.
This is Lauren Melissa, and I most definitely do feel pride. Oh, people are introducing themselves in the chat. Now I'm excited. I was worried we'd be very quiet tonight. But yeah, so I am very proud of my neurodivergence. I, of course, go through challenges being neurodivergent and navigating a neurotypical ableist society. But in my own self and in my own space, I am very proud to be autistic. I think that receiving my diagnosis in my early adulthood, it was a huge game changer for me. Hi, TJ. TJ can't hear me yet, so I'm gonna wait. It was a huge game changer for me and allowed me to take on more pride and the differences that other people had always seemed to tell me were things I needed to fix or things that I am broken in. And I think that in a way, learning that I'm autistic gave me, it helped me to feel more empowered to really say to those people, like, stop. Not that I hadn't been telling people to stop putting me down beforehand, but I think having this knowledge of who I am in terms of my neurodivergence empowered me in ways that I did not feel empowered before. And I think a big part of that is having a community. So I'll stop there. There were 3 questions, but I don't want to talk for too long. So if anybody else would like to tag on.
I'll jump in and say that, you know, I pride is something that developed over time. with me with being neurodivergent, because like when I first was in the room with the diagnostician, my initial reaction was, oh, this is what's wrong with me. This is the problem. And she's like, no, not wrong. You know, you've got to make some adjustments and, you know, think of it as a difference. And she recommended some books that had autistic voices. And so I started learning from autistic people. But because before that, you know, I had looked at myself through this lens that I was a broken neurotypical, or I was a lazy neurotypical. I wasn't doing good enough as a neurotypical person. And I internalized a lot of how I was treated by other people and the things that were said to me and about me. And I even got to a point where I believed that I deserved the bad way that people treated me, because I thought I wasn't good enough. And then when I found out I was autistic, it let me develop self-compassion for the first time in my life when I was 29, because I'd been really into like yoga and Buddhism and compassion. And I had a lot of compassion for other people and animals, but I had no compassion for myself at all. And until I had this missing piece that explained something I had searched for years, but didn't have words to explain what it was I was searching for, I didn't have what I needed to find that compassion for myself and to start to have pride in myself. And yes, it does make my life difficult. You know, I've also have multiple other disabilities that are common autistic people. I have seizures, although I'm coming up on, I think in another week or 2 years seizure free. So hopefully it stays that way. But there are other health problems that autistic people are more common likely to face. And so I have quite a few of those as well. And so like there are challenges, but despite that, and despite the fact that society is trying really hard to beat me down, I'm still here and saying I deserve to exist and be a human. And I think that's something to be proud of, is that effort that it takes to be proud when the world is telling you you should. Yeah. Does anyone want to jump on there? Because I'm not going to go to all questions either, because I feel like I ramble too much anyway.
So I can say that it took, like Lyric was saying, it took some time for me to find or be proud and find pride in being neurodivergent, because I spent 38 years thinking I was neurotypical and I had no idea what autism actually was, and completely different view of autism. And so I then realized that it's really important for me to be open about it, because I have a privilege of being able to do that. And I know a lot of people are not privileged in being able to say that they're openly autistic. And so it's really important for people to see what autistic people are like. And so that's when I decided to make my profile not private and start telling friends and family members. And then I became very proud of being neurodivergent. And yeah, and it's something that meeting the community also helped me to become even more happy about it, to go from, like Lyric said, thinking that, oh, this is what's wrong with me, to like, no, nothing's wrong with me and I'm awesome. So, and everybody helped me see that. So
I can go next. I am very proud of my new shiny neurodivergent batch. I am the first one formally diagnosed in my family. And I'm also the first one, I think, probably ever, as the first one in my family and extended family to actually come out personally and professionally as an autistic person. It's very important for me to advocate for autistic young people in Asia and also for autistic kids in that part of the world to just come out and be proud of their autistic identity and not hide, because that's how we can create a better community altogether. So a very proud day for me was in April when my 16-year-old daughter was interviewed by a radio station, and the topic was my autistic mom. So that was a really, really exciting day for me. Yeah, and then I wanted to welcome, I see some people here. We have an international crowd. I saw someone from the Philippines. I was born and raised in Indonesia. So welcome. And also I saw some people from San Francisco Bay Area. I'm from San Francisco Bay Area. So welcome all of you.
Yeah, just to kind of jump in, thank you. This is also relatable. Lyric, you were saying that just the word compassion like really hit me. Like, wow, yeah, I did not have any compassion for myself. Like, and I still do it. Like, I still get in the cycle of thinking, or if I'm having a hard day or feeling any like mental health stuff, like, why aren't I doing enough? And what, like, why am I poor? You know, like I'm blaming myself, like when I would never blame somebody else for being poor, you know, like these things. And for me, they always came back to not knowing I was different. Like they were so consistent. And I think there's some very blatantly messed up things people say to you growing up. And one of the things that is more subtle that really stuck with me is you're so intelligent, but you're so lazy. Like you just need to apply yourself. And that's something like I feel like I'm really, really working on. It's such like a neurotypical lens of seeing the world and like labeling intelligence, first of all, and then also like what somebody is able and capable of doing based on like your perception of them, like based on what this, you know, I honestly didn't know I was really good at science and math until I learned I was autistic. Like it gave me like well, this is a stereotype. I've always thought I was bad at this and people have always told me that. And then I actually like started doing it in a way that worked for me. And I'm really good at science and math and it's really kind of shocking. But that's like an example of like, I feel like in class, I'm in school, I'm getting a master's in kinesiology, and I feel like this thing happens sometimes where teachers like see what I'm capable of and then like literally don't believe what I struggle with. And sometimes I don't know what I struggle with, but I do feel like it's all part of a pride process. Today is usually the official trans march. I live in the Bay Area as well. I live in Oakland, and San Francisco has the biggest trans march, I think, in the world. I think on Friday, the weekend of Pride, it's also in New York City, Seattle, some other major cities. That's like another part of me I have a lot of pride in. And it honestly feels like a little bit different of a struggle. Like it's less of like this, you know, because neurodivergence like is about the way we think and like process and explain ourselves. So it's like a kind of a constant, it makes it, for me, it can make me more insecure about like things I'm going to say or do or respond or react, versus like being trans for me is a lot of it revolves around like safety, and it's really hard to explain, but there's a definite like difference, and they definitely come together to create a lot of trauma and a lot of pride.
You really want to add on to what you have to say as well. However, I also want to read for TJ and TJ's introduction. So I'm going to do that. Hi, I am Tiffany from High Functioning Autism. I was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid and then autism as a teen. I have 3 neurodivergent kids. 2 are autistic. I just turned 40. I have an autistic brother. I also have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, OCD, and epilepsy. Oh, my pronouns are they, she, he, and I am gender nonconforming. And this is Lauren Melissa speaking. And I wanted to just say that first, Jersey, I loved the phrase pride process. Like you said, like I'm in a pride process and I love a good alliteration. So I definitely liked the sound of that. And I feel like I just want to mention a bit of the fact that I do feel a lot of pride in being autistic. I do struggle in taking pride in my special interests. And that is probably the number one thing that I find myself apologizing for the most, is talking about my special interests. Because I've been told my whole life to shut up, to stop talking, and to stop being a little, you know, the names go on. And I think that because of that, I still am working in my pride process of having comfort in talking about my special interests. And I think that that is also intertwined in needing to destigmatize special interests, and not just destigmatize that autistics some do not have special interests, but destigmatize what that looks like, what that means, and that those special interests have value. Recently, I discovered that many neurotypicals still think that special interests are a choice for autistics, and that like blew my mind. I just thought, oh my gosh, no. I mean, like, there is some choice. I mean, there's some agency. We're not like in chains. I mean, like in chains, like tied to our special interests and can never walk away from them, ever, ever, ever. But at the
I don't
same
know. I will never walk away from instinct.
I was like, I
I'm
don't
just
know.
joking.
It feels, metaphorically speaking, it feels like it sometimes, though.
I think, yeah,
But I get
it
what you're
can
saying.
feel like that. But I mean, I have been forced to step away from my special interest, and like that's been used to harm me in the past. And so I think that that can be maybe some of the confusion around it. It's like, well, they stopped, so clearly there's a choice there. But there, it's not the same thing. It's not like, if I could choose my special interest, I feel like I'd be in charge of the world, because I would have chosen like some really wild stuff by now. But I'll end there. I
It's
also,
some useful things, right?
oh, my special interests are useful. It is very useful to love BTS. They teach me to love myself daily.
If I could like possibly put my energy, as much energy as I put into it and sink growing up into something else, into something that like makes you money, I would be incredibly wealthy.
My embarrassing one as a kid was Leonardo DiCaprio when Titanic came out, because I was in elementary school. And it was like, okay, am I in love with Leo or do I want to be Leo? Neither, and I still don't.
So T, Sandra, Tiffany, TJ, if any of y'all want to add, please do. I'm just including the next set of questions so you can answer those with it or whatever works for you. So for people who have kids, do your kids take pride in their neurodivergence and other parts of themselves? What does that look like to you?
I guess I can go. I guess I would say pride is a tricky thing for me. It's like disability is like this integral part of who I am. I can't separate it from any other part of myself. It took me a while to like realize that. I think for myself, pride looks like the countering of all these negative views people have a disability or the stereotypes that people assign to you. It's looking at all of these people and society and laws, rules, policies, everything that puts these limitations on who you're supposed to be and what they feel you're supposed to look like, what they feel your strengths are, and you're saying no. like with your presence. You are literally fighting back with everything that you are. And that for me is what pride embodies, but it's also sometimes feels like a lot of, I don't want to say work, but it feels like because of who I am and how I choose to exist in these spaces, I feel like my very existence is used as like a message. And that's what I feel like I am though. But a lot of times it's like a lot. And so I get a bit overwhelmed. And then sometimes I feel like I just need to reserve the right to kind of weave in and out of how I feel about myself. Like, yeah, today I'm really happy I'm autistic. I'm really happy this is who I am. And then some days I hate it. I feel like I can't function. And it does make me sad sometimes. Not in a way where I want to abandon all pride. It's just that you're just tired of fighting so much. Like your entire existence is like you trying to fight for this. Accept me, accept my children, accept who we are, accept what we have to offer the world, accept all of that. And then it kind of just like wears you down a little bit and you feel a little bad. But I learned that if I take those moments and those times to kind of like sit with those feelings that I have, then I don't implode. Like a lot of times I would just kind of like hide it in and keep it in. And then when it gets to the top, that's when I'm like, I hate myself, and I break down. And I just, so now when I feel it coming on a little bit, I just take that time to just sit and say, yes, Tiff, this is hard about yourself, but these long list of things is what's great about you. That wasn't giving myself the time to think about that. I wasn't giving myself time to like process that. So I think that pride is a journey that kind of like ebbs and flows. It's not like one straight thing, like, oh, you feel bad about yourself today. And then like a few years later, you're like, you reach that point where you're like, I'm completely satisfied with who I am. And then you never slide back. You know, you have to know that there are times where you're going to kind of go up and down and up and down. And that's something that I kind of try to show my children. My youngest is not at that point where he's proud of his autism just yet. He wants to just be JoJo. And that's it. He wants nothing else. He's just like, I just want to be me, this kid who likes these things, who does these things, and this is what I love. And he doesn't want to have anything to do with autism just yet. We're breaking through. We're getting a little, so it's a process. We're getting there. But yeah, I rambled. I can't remember what the question was, but I hope I answered. Because
No,
yeah.
totally. No, it was really relatable. The reason that made me think of asking this question about kids too, and I feel like that's just really cool to see. I don't know, to learn. But like I think most of us, if not all of us, didn't know we were autistic growing up. So I find it like really interesting and moving to like learn what kids think about themselves. One of my best friends has a kid, and it's definitely the kid. They have a few kids, but one of their kids was a kid I've connected with the most in my life. They're like a young teenager now. They just contacted me the other day to say they were diagnosed autistic, and it was like, and they told their kid kind of was taken back and had all these ideas of what autism is. And then when my friend told them that I'm autistic, it like they said they were like, oh, okay, I'm okay, like, and people I enjoy and look up to are this. And so yeah, that's part of what made me think about asking about kids too.
There's two things. T's written something that I'm going to read, and then I'll share too a little bit. And T has written, I'm proud of all I've overcome. Being autistic and often going mute when I'm overwhelmed, often struggling to communicate my internal state. I now allow myself to communicate the way I'm comfortable. I finally speaking my mind, and I'll never shut up. And I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else. And to go along with Tiffany, it is exhausting to get people to accept my words. However, I need to get them out, but my words matter. And I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything else. Yeah, I think that's true.
I have something from TJ. TJ says, I have pride in my neurodivergence because I am not like anyone else. I am happy about the way I experience the world. It's not always easy being different, but I wouldn't want to have it. Not quite sure if T is telling me to stop. TJ is telling me to stop. Oh, it's not always easy being different, but I wouldn't want to have it any other way at this point.
I just wanted to add, like, this is the first question that came up, obviously, and I really was stuck because, and I started hearing everyone else's things and pride, and I was like, like, I don't feel like that still. Like I have days, I think it's more about like, I'm still trying to figure out who I am now. Like still, like it's been 2 years. It's been, like I'm 42. I've spent my life like it's like half my life being something else, that realizing that it's not like where I thought I was, like, you know. And then and I feel like, you know, also looking at intersectionality here for myself, is that like there was nobody around me that I actually could look at or could look to and be like, oh yeah, like grandma or Nana or my mom is like that, or my dad or someone else, my brother. Well, I have a brother. We were not alike. And I know that, you know, it was a monolith, but there was no one, yeah, there's no one that is like me. So when I think about that, you know, with my own family, and I have all of this stuff that I do online to support others, and I know I love that, and I have pride in that, in you know, neurodivergence and what I do, and how I support people, and, you know, diagnosed ADHD, self-diagnosed autistic, and I still feel like proud of for all of it half the time, and yet like, you know, there is pride because I'm learning more about myself than I've ever have before, and I'm being more, I guess, me. But I didn't realize how not me I was, if that actually makes sense. I don't know if that actually makes sense. So it is like Tiffy was saying, how this process is just not linear, and how I have days where I'm like, yes, okay, I'm getting there. I feel good. I'm on it. And then I have other days where I'm like, who the hell am I? And what am I doing? And how am I writing this? And am I ever going to get to a point where I actually understand who's under this skin? And it just, I think it all just overlaps so much. Like, I don't feel like I can just pick apart, like, you know, oh, this is the neurodivergent side that I'm of me, and I, you know, because that I'm proud of, and it's not like I'm not proud. It's just like a getting to know, if that actually makes sense. And I don't even know how. And I, you know, I hear people say I got late diagnosed when I was like 24, 25. I'm like, oh my God, if I had gotten diagnosed when I was 24, what could I have done? I'm getting a little bit emotional here because, like, I don't think people realize what that is like. And so, yeah, it's like, and just being adopted and not even having people that looked like you around. So I'm packing all of that along with neurodivergence. So I think it was Jersey that was talking about that when you were talking about gender as well. I just feel like it's hard to separate it all sometimes. And so it's, I felt quite loaded as a question. I'm sorry, I have this heaviness I realized because of the, you know, Berta came out today, and then all that stuff's happening in Canada right now, and with the Indigenous children, I'm just like having a moment. Sorry, but I'm still happy to be here. And yeah, it feels complicated, it feels complex, and I'm still unpacking it all. I'm just going to be really honest with everyone tonight about that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's like incredibly relatable. The thing about like, it's hard for, I was trying to think of an example while you were talking about like questions people ask that people don't realize they're asking you to explain like one part of yourself, you know, like for me, a lot of people ask about being autistic and being trans, right? And then like, it's like, I don't know. Okay, here's a good example. ADHD and autism, really good example. It's very, very hard for me. And I don't have like an incredible interest in separating the two to understand how they affect me, because they would affect me differently if the other didn't exist, right? And like, I was saying to Macy the other day in a Zoom chat that like, I have, you know, I've been diagnosed, before I was diagnosed autistic, I was diagnosed with like all the things that come with autism, like sensory processing disorder, severe anxiety, auditory processing disorder, ADHD. And then when I realized I was autistic, it was like, this sums up all of this for me. I know not everybody experiences all these things, but this one term at least sums up this group of things. And so I feel like a good example is like the conversation around ADHD and autism, and trying to separate those when you're autistic, and the vast majority of us have ADHD traits, whether we're diagnosed or not. Like, so that's something I feel like I totally get what you're saying. You say like people, it can be really hard to find pride in yourself when you're constantly like asked why you do certain things, or what part of you makes you do certain things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that because when you get diagnosed with something like that, it's so big, like it changes your whole life. And at an age like that, you know, for me, it questioned everything about what I thought I knew about myself, like everything. And coming from the background that I did, and not having anyone there that was, you know, that had my background, that had anything like that knew me at all. Like you couldn't trust anything that anyone else said. Like I couldn't, because so then it's just like, okay, what else do I not know? What else do I not realize? The last 2 years of like the world that I have learned about. Yeah, it's all just melts together sometimes. And it's not about, I guess in a way, I am proud of doing the work, and always doing the work, and learning and growing and figuring out who I am. I'm proud of that. I guess I can't separate it in that way yet, you know. It's just like, okay, what I'm uncovering and what I'm grieving and what I've lost and what I've gained. I am, you know, brave and proud of that person, whoever that person is going to be. And yeah, that stuff about the ADHD, autism stuff, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to separate.
And you're totally the kind of person I like, maybe a year or two ago, I would have been like, what's the difference? Explain the difference to me, please, if you have the capacity, because you are like in this field where you know a lot about neurodivergence. And I would literally message people that had ADHD in their name and be like, hi, if you have the capacity, can you tell me the difference between ADHD and autism? And then over time, I was like, I don't need to know the difference. Like I
have like, you know, I know what you mean. I have like theories, like I have ideas about like where some of the overlap kind of doesn't happen as much, I think. But then other people are like, oh, no. like, I know people who have both and they're like, I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. Like, that's just maybe my experience. But I do think that sometimes some of us are like more like heavier on the autistic side than ADHD. I think some of us might be more heavier on the ADHD side than, autistic side. I think that for sure. Actually, Tracy, I remember one of the first times, and I felt very validated too by this conversation that we had. Sorry, I'm going to change topic here for a second. Was, but it does kind of connect to another question that you had, Tracy. So, you had sent me a video about this family. They're really quirky, funny family. I guess everyone really likes them. Blonde hair, blue eyed family. Do funny stuff. The dad does funny stuff or something. I had never heard of them before, but it was ADHD stuff. And I was like, wow. And I messaged you, I was like, wow, he does some stuff that I have never done before as, an ADHD, or like, that is just some stuff that is not ADHD me at all. And you had messaged back, you were like, yeah, you can really tell when some people are just really just ADHD and maybe don't have the overlap as much, And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was really one of the first people to ever like say to me, like, I see you as being not just ADHD, but having that overlap of autism as well. And I was like, oh, they see me, they see me, they say, yeah. So
yeah, I was like, I don't relate to this person either, but it's funny. But that's probably because I'm autistic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, everyone.
On the subject of kids,
Oh,
TJ said something, so I want to make sure to read it. TJ says, my kid's age is very difficult to really have pride. At my kid's age, it's very difficult to really have pride in their neurodivergence because they are age 11 through 16. And this is the time where social relationships are important and fitting in as well. My daughter in particular is proud of her neurodivergence and is very open and gifts for social justice of all types. I don't know if kids are not happy, or my kids are not happy. I don't know if my kids are not happy with their academic differences. So my kids are not happy with their academic differences and struggles. However, that's something I know they are feeling that makes them less than that's something I know they're feeling that makes them feel less than no matter what I say.
I have a kid, 7. He knows he has ADHD. We haven't had them like formally assessed yet, but they are very much, love-hate relationship with school right now because they're very much my brain doesn't work like that, but they do very well in school too. So I think that also makes a difference. Just jumping on what TJ had said. But they're very much right now at this point too about like school is like killing my imagination and creativity, and it does not allow me to expand my his special interest is a game that he has made in kindergarten that everyone in his class played, like a made up like game of like a different world planet, like as I said, alien creative is his gender. And it's just kind of grown on that. Like now, they're in year 2, and then they still like made this big game, space, and all of these things that have matched up his special interests and stuff. And we've had to move it into a new school because we realized that he probably needs more like support emotionally because he's very sensitive and whatnot. But he's very proud of who he is, and I'm really grateful for that. Like whatever comes up for them, he's always quite proud of his brain and how he thinks in the creative side. He thinks that his imagination is the most powerful thing that he has, and I'm always inspired by him. So that's always nice.
I just wanted to say that talking about neurodivergent kids, I mean, I realized that feeling comfortable in my own skin is still, it's a long process. And it took me a long time to find a clinician who could diagnose me. And I actually found an autistic clinician, not in the US. I had to outsource to another country, but she was wonderful and she made the whole process. I felt heard. I felt respected. She helped me play detective and ask questions to people who knew me as a little girl. It was done right. It took a long time. And then she connected me to a Facebook support group. And at the beginning of COVID, my son really had a hard time. And we were wondering at that point if we should seek a diagnostic process just to be able to, help increase his understanding and be able to get more support. And then after the process of my diagnosis, I realized, you know what? I could help him just becoming more comfortable with himself just through my own discovery process, a little bit at a time, because we actually share very similar neurodifferences. Like we both have sensory processing difficulties, socially awkward. So in that sense, I think what I'm saying is if you have neurodivergent kids, I think that if you absolutely have to get a formal diagnosis because your family needs support and of course support at school, but if possible, the readiness to want to know who I am through a formal diagnosis, I think it's better to be done as a choice by that young person, because I feel like that process is really important for me. And to find a person who could do that for me, it was just priceless. But now, since my diagnosis is just part of our language, the way we talk about stimming, the way we talk about just laugh together as a family, because some nights we just not talking or hearing. It's like, it's crazy. But so that's my advice, is to, if possible, so someday when he's ready, he can go through the same process, and hopefully I can help him, find the right clinician and really when he's ready. So.
PJ has written, I don't really get imposter syndrome for autism. That may be because I was diagnosed relatively early or because people comment on my traits a lot. I do get imposter syndrome for being a grown adult, and my differences are very pronounced from other adults. This is a point of great sadness, for at times, despite being proud of being neurodivergent, I wish I could live independently, have a regular steady income, give my kids the things I had and didn't have. Instead, I feel like a failed adult that has made bad decisions and had too many traumatizing events in the past that I seem not to be able to get through, like other adults seem to. I especially, sorry, my dog is about to go wild, so I need to. Especially neurotypical adults. There just seems to be some part of the adult life that I can't participate in, and I do compare myself a lot, and it kind of makes me sad. My therapist just yesterday said to not compare. I have other gifts, but my gifts are not validated by society in ways that makes living like a typical adult work, not validated by financial benefits, and not validated by society actually thinking I am worthy, to be honest.
T wrote something as well. He said, I feel imposter syndrome every time I have a good day because no one understands that functioning fluctuates. It was, if you can do X, why can't you do Y? Oh my gosh. I was just thinking that today, actually, before I came on. It's like, I've gotten a lot done today. And wow. And thinking, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. I felt that.
Yeah, the reason I put this question up is because for a while I didn't know if other people felt it, felt like these. I feel like a while ago I had a conversation with Brandy, or one of us said something in response to the other about like, oh my God, I do that too. And it was like this moment where I was like, wait, other autistic people have this like weird imposter syndrome. The weird thing, the complicated thing about it is I feel a lot of what TJ said, like all these ways I have like failed as an adult, like all the jobs I like couldn't hold, or I would go through these severe like I'm 35 and every job I have had has not lasted more than 2 years, and I'm like incredibly good at what I'm doing, like freakishly good, but there's things I don't understand about it, and then I crash and burn. Like I have complete burnout, complete meltdown, can't go back to the job. It happens. It has happened every time I decided to go back to school and like shift what I was doing in life because it was so unsustainable. That I'm also really bad at like I said, I don't have money, but like when like anytime I like budgeting, very, very hard for me. It's like a very hard thing for me to wrap my head around. And I think that's like especially hard when you are low income to like, and like a good example would be like, I don't know if all of you experience this, but I have a lot of difficulties with eating. Like I've been told I have ARFID, which is like avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. I've been told I have someone, a therapist who acknowledged my autism said that, a therapist who was focusing on me being trans said I had just restrictive intake. So it's like another weird intersectional thing where they don't look at like the whole thing about you, where ARFID, it says like it's not part of ARFID is saying like avoidant restrictive, mostly based on like sensory issues and things like that. It's not about like necessarily like body dysmorphia, wanting to change your body, where when people have diagnosed me with eating disorders for being trans, that's what they say. So I've been diagnosed with these like two conflicting things. But where that comes into play is like when you open your fridge and you have some food in your fridge, but like none of it's going to work for you in that moment, and you know it, or you try anyway and you like take a bite. I saw this TikTok and it was like it was like being neurodivergent and hungry, and it's like they're running into their kitchen, they open their fridge and they're like, nope, well, guess I'll starve. And that's like what it feels like for me a lot of times. So when it comes to like budgeting with food, it's like that. I mean, we need food to survive. Like we need to eat. And, you know, I could have $50 in my bank account, haven't eaten all day, and I'm like, I really need to order food. Like if I don't, I am going to not be okay. And there goes like half my money, right? And so that's like I feel like it's a very hard thing to, it makes me feel like what TJ was saying, like I'm failing in ways. Like, why can't I just like cook myself food I enjoy? Why can't I just like meal prep? I don't want to. I don't want anyone to teach me. I've tried. But that's just like a very concrete example of like a way I struggle as an adult. But yeah, I definitely have these moments where I'm like, wait, am I autistic? Do I just think I'm autistic? Like, and yeah, at the same time, things TJ was saying really relate to my life, where people who have known me a long time or know me well, or like will say funny things about how autistic I am, and know that like I cope with trauma and stuff through humor. So it makes me feel really validated. Or makes me feel like the few people I will say it out loud to, like, but this isn't like everybody does this thing. And they're like, no, no, people don't, you know.
I can say that talking about imposter syndrome, I dealt with that a lot at the beginning of my diagnosis. And well, I was self-diagnosed first and then got my official diagnosis. But at the same time, it was always in the back of my mind, like, was it wrong? Like, did they get it right? Because I had had a lifetime of misdiagnoses that were wrong. And then I also had people around me that were telling me, you're not autistic, you're not like this, this, and this. And so that was also contributing to it. But then once I realized what autism actually was, I would have these moments where it would be like, I would doubt it, and then something would happen, and I would be like, oh no, I'm totally autistic. Like, we were outside of a restaurant and an ambulance went by, and it was so painful that I started crying. And I was like, yeah, I don't think everyone cries at ambulances. And so that was just like a small moment where it was just like, it started clicking. And then there was these series of moments just like that, where it would be like, yeah, this is an autistic trait that I've always done. And, you know, and sometimes even when you have an account and you're open on the internet, you even have people telling you you're not autistic, you know, and that can contribute. Trolls and different parents of people, Lyric, you know who I'm talking about, and it's saying you're not autistic, and no way. And, you know, and that really got to me for a little while. But then this community helped me, you know, see, and meeting people just like me, it was like, yeah, I am autistic. And the stigma around autism needs to change, because it's causing a lot of us to go undiagnosed, and it's causing a lot of people to have imposter syndrome. And yeah, so slowly but surely that started to go away. But I still do have days where I kind of will click back into it, but a lot less than I used to.
Yeah, I wanted to add what T had written here, and I wanted to comment what Brenda said as well. T says, I know I'm different. I've always been treated that way, but the imposter syndrome is more like I'm different and it's a flaw I need to fix. I find with imposter syndrome for me in the neurodivergent space is just, when I first started writing, and I was writing a lot about ADHD, and that's all like, 'cause I had that diagnosis. So, and I was writing about that, and I'm just writing about like what I learned, or not even what I learned, is what I felt really. But instead I'd be getting, what I was getting was, you know, autistics in my inbox or my DMs going, but is that really just ADHD though? And I'm like, I don't know, like I'm just writing what I feel, you know, and I just, you know, I don't think the day goes by without me feeling that of imposter some way or another, whether it's whatever side it's on, like ADHD side or just more like autistic sides, just wherever. I think a big one for me is that, like having the sensory, and then like I read some other people's story about sensory issues, and I think, oh gosh, like mine aren't, I don't think they're that bad. Like, yes, I burn out. And Josie, your story about like having jobs like every 2 years, like that's me, like, but it's always been teaching, but it's only been like schools. I've changed schools like every like 2 years, you know, because like by then, like it's done, even though I'm good at what I do. It would always end in like, I would just be completely destroyed. Like I just barely make it, you know, like June, like last day of school, you know, come out like sick for 2 weeks and like, you know, melt, like just mess. But it was hidden, you know, like teaching is good for that. Like you can kind of recover and then come back into it. But then by year 2, I wasn't usually getting along with everyone, and it was probably time for me to go anyways, because I socially was kind of not very good at it. But I was really good with the kids and understood the kids in the ways that other teachers never did. but I never understood why that was. And I never really got that until being neurodivergent. I realized that I was, but yeah, the imposter syndrome is always there. And no matter how much I know, or no matter how much when I have moments like what Brandy was saying with the ambulance going by and like, you know, putting like just feeling just like just so anxious about it and just feeling like teary. And today I had to like go upstairs. I couldn't listen to my kid eat. He's sick and he has like, you know, so he's trying to eat and oh God, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you're listening to someone like, oh, I can't even talk about it. I had to leave him. I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go. I just can't. And today I'm just really stressed out. And I think, okay, well, maybe that's just me just being impatient, or am I just autistic or ADHD? Yeah, I have it all the time.
I think when it comes to imposter syndrome, I don't think that it's something that I struggle with in and of myself. I think that people try to make me feel that way. And ever since I have started saying I'm autistic, people have been asking me, are you sure? Or you're very high functioning, whatever that means. Or trying to make me doubt that I am autistic based upon their surface level observations. But when I sit with myself and in my own space, I don't feel that doubt. So it's not that I think I have imposter syndrome. I think it's that I am faced with people telling me that I am an imposter. And I don't think, and I want to clarify too, that I actually don't get a lot of that online. Most of that's happening to me face to face, or has happened to me face to face. And there are times though when I've turned to my partner and just said to her, just asked her, really autistic. Just, you know, I just ask her lots of questions like that all the time. Like, this is normal in my household. And she'll turn back to me and say, if you're not autistic, like nothing makes sense anymore. Like, or just say like really encouraging things like that. I'll be like, sometimes I'm scared because people say this or they say that. And she's like, those people don't know you. They think they know you. And that has been very helpful for me.
Yeah. And see, I feel like people who see me online are the ones that doubt it more than people who see me in person, especially if I'm more relaxed. Although, like recently, there've been a few people that have doubted it in person, and a couple of those people that initially doubted it in person have since discovered that they're autistic.
Like I just sent you a message because there's like a
that,
connection issue.
and then they okay. I've got one bar only, so
It's kind of like on and off. Yeah. So,
maybe try turning off your video and then try speaking again. That can give you maybe some more bandwidth.
this guy.
I know, so brilliant. And now I got distracted and lost what I was going to say because my brain what been running with that. But I was basically saying I get it more online than in person, but a couple of people I did encounter in person later, they were kind of like, well, doesn't everybody do that? Doesn't everybody do that? A couple of those people later found out they were autistic and kind of told me that they were actually autistic, and they thought that I was doing things everybody did because they did it too. But they didn't know they were autistic at the time. So that's another kind of funny consideration sometimes, because when you're coming out to people in your family and who are near you, like I have a lot of neurodivergent family members diagnosed and not. And then I tend to get attracted to other neurodivergent humans, like even before I knew what I was seeking. It was like there's just this, like almost like the sense together for people. You have this community feeling and you group to each other naturally, like little magnets, even if you don't know what it is you're clicking to. And so like people in my circle, I guess, were neurodivergent humans too, a lot of the times. That's who I felt comfortable around.
That makes a lot of sense. I threw up other questions, but again, the way it's going, I think is great. Like people kind of bouncing around. I just threw up, do you have an idea of how you are perceived by others? Can you compare how people perceive you online versus in person, or how you perceive yourself?
TJ says, I have a great idea how I am perceived because people have always told me to my face or even around me, even in the same vicinity, like I am not there. People don't ever hesitate and have never hesitated to make me feel different. But also looking back, everyone felt like it was okay to tell me, whether it is good or bad, how they felt about me. They told me. After getting this far in life and comparing notes over the years with others, I think I know in what ways I am different. As a person and as an autistic, I know how I differ from neurotypical people and other autistic people in general. But life is always changing, so I don't doubt that I will see more differences as well as similarities.
Can I pass it to you, Tiffany? Like how do you feel like you're perceived by people online, offline, and how do you feel about yourself?
I think it's similar to TJ. I wonder if it's like, if that's like cultural in some ways. Cause like growing up, the way that we've grown up, it's like our families and our friends, they didn't have no problem telling you what they felt you were, who they felt you needed to be. They constantly talked about your behaviors. And it wasn't just you, it was like everybody in your family. Everybody had an idea of who you were. They didn't shy away from it. You can go to a cousin's friend's house who you never met, and they will sit there and they'll tell you, oh, this is how I see you to be, and this is who you are. And that completely kind of blew me, like growing up and you're surrounded by like nothing but like other Black people and stuff who had no problem telling you this is what you are, this is what you do, this is who you will be. And then to go to a college where it was like opposite, it was like flipped, and everyone was kind of like looking at you like a project or like a pet. And they were kind of trying to figure out who you were and what you are, what you do. And it's kind of similar in the online space. It's like so interesting because I'll get so many messages, and requests. And I feel, in Jersey, you know this, I'm like the best person ever, right? I'm so quiet, I'm so calm, I'm nice, right? But I will get all these messages and the first 3 lines or sentences, I was afraid to talk to you because I was so intimidated and scared. And then I'm sitting here and I'm reading it. I'm like, of me? Like, me? Have you read my stuff? Like, have you listened to me? I'm not intimidating. Well, I don't feel like it, but it makes you wonder, like, what is it that I'm putting out there that like gives so many people this perception of me? Because it's not just one person, it's not just 2, it's like every week I'll get like a dozen of the same type of messages. And then after we talk back and forth, they're like, you are really nice. That's what I was trying to tell you before you sent me this. Nice. Like, so it's so different, and I take on, and that's part of something I need to kind of work on, and I'm working on in therapy, but I will take on every single person's like thoughts of me, like their perceptions of me, and I will carry it like a freaking backpack. And I would just put more opinions and more perceptions, just stack it into this large knapsack, and I will carry it until I cannot stand no more. And I'm like, this is who I am. This is what they see me to be. So this is how I have to share, because this is the way they can connect to me. This is how they see me. And then someone else will see me a different way. I'm like, oh no, that's counter to what this person sees me as. And then, so then I got to change it a little bit because, and so I'm always like constantly thinking about, you know, what do I look like to the world? Like I have this thought of who I am, and I'm like confident of that until I log on, or until I leave my house, or if I go back home, or isn't it? And then you get hit with all of these different things. And you're like, oh, maybe I'm really not this way. Maybe I should be this other way, or maybe I should change a little, or maybe I should, So it's just a lot of things. Like I grew up knowing this is how these people felt about me. And yes, a lot of it did hurt, but I knew what I was getting. And then I went to a different environment where it was, no one knew what to make of me. And they threw out all kinds of stuff. And I didn't know what to do with it. And then now I'm in a different type of space, being online, and I still don't know what to do with a lot of how people perceive me. And I try to put how I feel about myself first. But it's easier said than done. You're just sitting there and you're just like, dang, they didn't catch what I was throwing, maybe my pitch is off, or, it's just like, I feel like I just take on too much, and I think about a lot about how people think of me. And like I said, I felt like it was part cultural, part how I grew up, part how everyone else sees me. Like you really do have to be some type of way to like live in this skin though. And so you're always trying to take on different things. It's like part survival, part trying to put it, I don't know, just a mess of stuff. I'm trying to like put it out there, but I just wanted to like hop on that because like Tiffany TJ brought that up. And I was like, this is not the first time that it's been put in that way. And so that's why I was like wondering if that was like cultural for us. And I wonder, because I get the same things from other Black autistic people that I speak with, or just other Black people in general. Like you grew up and you're like, this is what you are. This is how you are. This is what you act like. This is what you will be. And then you're thrust into this world with this perception of yourself. And then other people try to like figure you out too. And so you just kind of grow up confused and lost. And I think I didn't answer the imposter one, but it was just me taking in everything that people were saying. And I think a lot of what people perceived me to be then and now, like added to how I feel about my diagnosis. And, I always feel like I'm not disabled enough. And like when I was first diagnosed, I didn't think about it at all. I didn't know what autism was. I was diagnosed with aspergers. So I definitely didn't really know what that was. I just thought it was weird anxiety and it just looked bad. And so I didn't think about it. I had a son, he was diagnosed, and I was like, I don't look like him. I don't present like him. So I can't be like him. And so that was like the beginning of it. Then my youngest, and I was like, I still don't look like him. We look differently there. And I realize this now, but I was leveling us. I was putting functioning labels on us. I was saying, I'm right here, and my kids are like right here, and we're not the same. We're different. I can't be this. And you know, and the more I denied it, and the more I doubted that my own life was real. And I think that's what the imposter syndrome is. You doubt that the life you were living, that you have firsthand knowledge of, is real to you. You feel like you're living this fake life. You're like, if I went to school and I got a master's and I had kids and I got married, and I have a couple of friends and I can write online, I can do all this stuff. Like, how could someone with this disability do this and accomplish this? And you realize, but you don't think about the process it took to get there. It took me 15 years to get a master's. It takes me so long to write a post. It takes me so long to think. It takes me so long, and I take breaks. I have meltdowns, but I don't think about that stuff I just think about the end, because that's what everybody else thinks about. They don't see the process. They don't see what you go through at the beginning, the middle, the end. So they judge you from that end product. I'm like, yeah, this end product looks great because one, I'm me, come on. Two, I put a whole lot of work into that. A whole lot. Had 4 meltdowns. I neglected my kids. I forgot dinner. I didn't eat. I had to go to the hospital because I didn't eat, you know? All because I was writing a freaking post about intersectionality, and it was like 2,200 characters, and my behind went to the hospital because I didn't eat. Because I was trying to put this out there for you guys, and I'm forgetting about everything. So it's just, they don't, and you take on all that stuff. And gosh darn it, y'all got me hyped. I forgot what I was gonna say next, but I'm gonna pass it off.
This is like making me laugh. Like when you feel like something makes you like hits your core, makes you laugh, because it's. I saw this thing the other day that was like, people think, some of you might have seen it, I shared a TikTok. It was like an autistic person being like, people thinking I'm funny when I'm just telling the truth because I'm autistic. And yeah, it's very relatable, and also how I feel when I can relate to other autistic people who are just sharing the truth, but it also comes with like a humor. It just feels really good. Yeah, thank you. That was like, I kept thinking like, I have also, so the thing you said about intimidating, I've been called like intimidating my whole life, online and offline, which is so, I don't, it does mess with my, I'm like, am I a jerk in some way? Did I say something in a way that people feel like they can't approach me? Like, I do so much, the thing you're talking about like the beginning, middle, and like, I do so much processing before speaking out loud, before writing, before, it's like so much. And I think people like, so there's like a lot of quietness. I'm a lot more comfortable with you all, and like as time goes on, especially, you know. But like, I also just got a message yesterday from someone saying like something about, if we met in person, I think I'd be really intimidated. And I was like, why do people always say this to me? Like, and they kind of had like a cool theory. It was actually a friend I talked to who works for Timo, which we'll talk about in a sec. And they were like, you know, I think it's a lot of people that work with us feel just so confident in their truths. And it made me like kind of zoom out and like look at the autistic people and neurodiverse people I'm connected to, or do things like this with, or even people writing in the chat, like all these things. It's like, there is this, I think there's this like truth, often, not always, that we speak or write or say in some way that kind of takes people back. And it's like intimidating, but because not everybody does that, or like even like feels it within themselves, doesn't even like know their truth, you know? So when you hear someone like Tiffany, I mean, Tiffany, you're like a great example. T is a great example of like the posts that come out online. You're like, whoa, this is like like this is coming from in here. I'm trying to hit my gut, but you can't see it. Like in here, and it was like formulated into words. Like these are not words you read often, even if you can relate to them or you think about things like this. So I think it comes from that. Yeah.
And TJ is saying on the subject of working, I don't enjoy working because my body and brain are unreliable. I hate letting people down. My energy level is low, usually for myriad reasons. I do love what I used to do for work, but I was always kept away from the social aspect of work. Or maybe for some reason I made others feel uncomfortable. My actual work was always applauded or stellar, but the culture just never fit, or I made people mad or suspicious somehow. I was bullied at my workplaces. I never felt good enough, no matter how good my actual work was. I don't think neurotypical people like work, and I have never heard them say they do, but they do feel like they can tell people what they are supposed to do.
T had said something too that was about I think what Tiffany had mentioned, was talking a little bit about earlier. There is a cultural need, highlighted, of marginalized people to reflect one another, to be similar so we are stronger in numbers. I didn't understand why I couldn't just be myself like everyone else, but my family did. I think it's interesting, just my own thoughts about a little bit about what Tiffany said. I think it's interesting. I didn't really grow up being told what I was like I didn't grow up being really told like, this is what it means you being Black. This is what it means when you act like this. This is what it means when people say this or that and that, this and that. And I'm wondering if it's a different kind of thing, like between Black and white people. Like I grew up always kind of guessing what and putting together the pieces of what it meant to be me or how I was supposed to be, to the point where being like when I said all being like, oh my God, these are all the things that I didn't know that maybe other people that didn't have ADHD or autistic kind of could put together or were told so they understood it. Where I've spent the last few years learning myself. And yeah, I wonder how that would have been to even like, because I had thoughts of who I was, but then to not be treated in you know, like well, or in certain ways, or you know, then you start to doubt those thoughts about who you are. And yeah, I think imposter syndrome comes up from that a lot too. But yeah, I was just thinking about that, just that like I didn't have that cultural, you know, background of someone actually coming to me and being like, you're like this is you, this is what you are, this is what you should be doing. Why aren't you doing that? You know, at all. Just like people just losing it on me and then me figuring out, okay, well, don't do that again. Holy shit. Eventually, but never really understanding why. So I'm wondering if it was kind of, it is kind of a culture thing, right?
What did you say? You were wondering if what?
Oh yeah, sorry, if it is a kind of a culture thing, because then I was also thinking too that people don't come into my DMs and be like, I was so intimidated by you. And then I wonder, you know, I was raised by white people and I don't speak, what is it? Oh my gosh, you know the words. Anyway, sorry, it's late here. And I craft everything, you know, that I write online. I mean, Tiffany's talking about like the effort that goes into every post. Like it's people like just do not get it. Like I can write posts for about 5 or 6 days and then I need to take 2 weeks off. Like it takes everything out of me to put together posts, and it just gets harder and harder, you know, the more I learn about myself. And I wish yeah, I just wish people saw more of that. Like, just because the product looks crafted, there's a reason why. There's an energy behind it, and there's like kind of an underlying fear for me, actually, that that kind of goes into that. And then all of the stuff that doesn't get done because I've had to make sure, I hope it's just perfect, because I don't think I could deal with anyone being in my DMs being, you're too intimidating of this and that. Yeah, I was never ever raised that way. And I never ever saw that, even though I probably knew that was happening to me, but I never saw it. There's so much imposter syndrome in my life. Like, it's like I'm like, feel like the poster child of it in so many different ways.
This is Lyric. I've got my camera off to hopefully make you guys be able to hear me. That's the thing people really don't understand, I think, with the online stuff, is that it is your best work that you put forward because you poured your heart and soul into it and you put it on. And people often will, I find, overestimate my abilities very greatly based on what I put out into the internet. Because I, you know, and like you said, you put stuff out and then you have to go take a break for 2 weeks. I was talking to a friend of mine and they're like, how do you do it? Because I have ups and downs and times where I can't be productive. And I said, well, right now I've got posts through, you know, all of July, and I'm getting ready to get stuff for August because I have really productive periods and I try to get as much done as I possibly can when I am productive, so that when I have my bursty things where I fall out and I can't be productive, or I can only wrangle enough energy to focus on one project at a time, that's okay. So I can get the bare minimum of what I have to do done. And you know, I've had to learn to say no to more things now because sometimes people think I can do more than I can do, and I want to be able to think I can do everything, but I have to learn to be more compassionate with myself and be more realistic that there are things that, even though, yeah, I'd love to do this, it's like, I'm not the person. This is going to be something that I'm going to do. I may get through it, but it's going to make me a dead human, where I'm a shell of myself by the end of it, because I'm going to have a very hard time getting through something that is beyond my capabilities. And I used to do that square peg round hole thing when I lived in corporate America, and I would force myself really hard to, you know, be a productive little worker bee. And my productivity doesn't look like neurotypical productivity if I let it be the way it is naturally, and learning to go with that. I'm much more productive and then actually working a lot less hours if I work with my natural workflow. Like the time I do work, because I can't work as much as I thought I could work, as much as everyone else seems to be able to work anymore, especially not when I have to be using my brain. Because the brain's a very, I feel like my brain at least, and I think in general, the brain's a power hungry organ. And so I get exhausted using my brain power, and I can't work as much as I could when I was younger. And respecting that's been really important, and not being so hard on myself, because I can't do the 9 to 5 40 that is, that everyone in corporate America thinks is the gold standard. And then really you're working more than that too, because of the unwritten expectation that if you're on salary, you work more, which is, you know, unwritten expectations. That's why I have social anxiety versus on top of autism, because of all the unspoken expectations that are like a landmine for people that struggle with social cues.
I think I used to really hate work for a lot of those social aspects as well, and being afraid after every conversation that I had, as well as that constant needing to burn my brain to keep up this productivity. And then one day I just kind of like gathered the evidence, because I just I started noticing that my productivity was so different, or seemed so different from everybody else around me. And so I just started gathering the evidence that I needed, that neurotypicals are not productive from 9 to 5. And that they're all really, not all, but that many of them are very good at looking productive from 9 to 5, but nobody was saying that out loud. And so that hasn't made me not be productive at work, but it's helped me grow a healthier relationship with my work and measuring myself no longer by hours, but by projects. And if I am getting my projects done at the assigned deadline, not necessarily earlier, if I am still working at the same level or even above at times the level of those that I'm working with, then I am permitted to take self-care at work. I permit myself to do that, because people are doing that in many ways that no one is saying. And ever since I started doing that or trying to implement that, y'all, I'm not perfect at it, but trying, because I mean, I still hear in my head 9 to 5, and I take a 1-hour break. And that is what I do because I follow my structures and my routines. And so I have to actively like work against that narrative to then kind of try to copy in my own autistic way what neurotypical people are already kind of doing. But I feel this guilt about it because I haven't been given permission. So ever since I've started trying to implement, maybe taking some time to look at my special interests or recognizing that the things that I can accomplish in an hour of hyper focus would sometimes take people a whole workday. And recognizing that and then permitting myself to take breaks in my own way, ever since that, I have really felt as though I have a healthier relationship to work. I mean, I love my leisure time and I love my special interests, but I do currently like work. I do. It's possible.
I feel like I have a unique perspective on work and liking work because I had the majority of my life working really hard and not realizing that I was autistic, or also not realizing that I had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I was in a lot of pain all the time. I was always sick. I was always calling out. I would get this reputation for not being dependable, or sometimes, I'd gotten fired for taking too many sick days. I actually was fired once while I was in the hospital. That was fun. And from a corporate job. And so I would try to work these jobs where I could be like my own boss, kind of, so that I could have more of a flexible work schedule, which was really hard. But I would get this reputation of like not being dependable. And now that I know what's going on with me, I realize I was not what everyone painted me out to be. The lack of accommodations made me undependable. And if I had had those, it would have been completely different. And now I am in a job where I'm openly autistic. I work for an autistic dating and friendship app that we'll talk about later. And I have accommodations now in place, and I like work. and it's not like work even sometimes. There are days obviously where I don't feel like going to that morning meeting, but it's just a unique experience looking back, and it almost makes me angry that I didn't know that I was autistic, because everyone thought very poorly of me. And I would hear people say, "Oh, I'm so tired after work," or "My feet hurt," or "My back hurts." And I would just think, wow, my back is on fire too, but I guess that's how everyone feels, and looking back, it was like, no, it isn't, because I needed a back brace because I can't stand up straight, and I have a back brace now. And so there were lots of things, accommodations and mobility aids and things that I needed that I didn't have, and none of those things about myself were true. So I like it. It's changed now. I don't hate it anymore.
Oh my God, everything people are saying are so relatable. And also, like, as we're talking, I realize this isn't something that's talked about a lot. So it's feeling like really, I don't know, it's just not reinforcing. I can't think of the word. Just like helping me process what work has been for me. And like, wow, this is all valid. This is like, because I was saying earlier, it's easier to like validate someone else than myself. Something my therapist is always like, what would you say to someone else in this situation? And I feel really cheesy, and I'm like, oh, just like you're doing what you can. You feel good. And she's like, so say it to yourself. And I'm like, oh God, okay, I'm doing what I can. I'm doing my best, like things like that, you know? But hearing this, it's like, I just something Lyric was saying, and then Laura Melissa was saying similarly, was like the hyper focus, like what I am able to do when I am actually, my mind is actually challenged and I don't have to like extend it's the amount of time you're supposed to be at work, the amount of time you're supposed to be like producing. But everything you all have said is totally true for me in school too. And there's honestly, the reason I went back to school is because I didn't know how to work in work culture anymore. Like I was just so done and, like I said earlier, burnt out, and it just felt so impossible. And going back to school, at least in higher education, there is more flexibility. There are definitely professors that, I've had one professor that treats it like work culture, like be here at this time, you lose points if you're late, like these keeping points for things that don't actually matter. And I think that's part of it for me too. I'm like, wait, if I can complete this project in like a way that's exciting for me, and I don't have to work on it all semester and check in with this professor every 2 days about it, if I can just give myself a period of time, like these are the 2 weeks I'm working on this project, and so much more comes out of me. Like, it's like, it reminds me of special interests. Like, I don't feel like I can do things I don't enjoy doing. And there are things I have to do, right? Like I have to call and pay my internet bill, for example. I hate doing that. It's the most boring thing in the world. I end up getting around to it usually when they're like, we're canceling your internet, you know, or it happens and I'm like, please turn it back on. But like, I can't do work like that. I can't just like do things. It's so exhausting to me to do things where I'm not using the things about myself that are like passionate about things. And I see that really different with neurotypical people, even if they don't like work a lot of times. Like a lot of people are like, this is what I do. And then I come home and then I engage in my neurotypical special interests or whatever, you know, like it just has to be like a part of me everywhere. I'm throwing up the last question, but again, feel free to answer. What are your thoughts on the conservatorship over Britney Spears?
So TJ wrote a response to this, so I want to make sure, and it was a while ago, so I really want to get this in. Let me find it. TJ says, this is a disability rights issue. I am appalled at the way parents still think about this situation while at the same time saying Britney's situation is so different. I am appalled anyone still believes in any conservatorship. This also highlights the importance of communication. People who think people need to be watched or taken care of in this manner with no input don't presume competence. They have let their loved ones go without proper, robust communication and have no plans to ever ensure they will. I don't trust anyone, including a parent or myself, that claims to speak for another or be their voice. They can be their interpreter, their microphone, their advocate, or their aid, but everyone has their own voice. And communication needs to start as early as possible for everyone, so we never have to leave it to others to believe they can speak for another. We should believe in the research that everyone, no matter their degree of disability, can read and thus communicate for themselves. March 1st, the international disability community mourns disabled people who have been killed by their own caregivers, usually parents and siblings. But a huge percentage of people we don't hear about are getting abused, like Britney Spears, for a lot less. Parents need to find other ways that care can be taken, like self-directed guardianship, etc. This system allows so many of us to be abused by conservatorships when there are other ways. But ensuring communication is given to everyone is the first step for the next generation.
Metaphorical mic drop. Wow, yeah. Here's of everything. I don't have anything to add. That was perfect. Does anybody else? Matt, have you seen questions pop up?
I have. There's been one question. It's mainly for Brandy, wondering what it's like working at a company with accommodations built in from the start.
While we're on it, Brandy, do you want to give like a shout out? Thanks.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Hiki, and it's Hiki, Hiki app, and it's an autistic dating and friendship app, and everybody there is really cool. The CEO Jamil, Jamil Kareem, he is awesome, and so he actually specifically was put out an ad for this job, like in the looking for someone who is autistic. So I mean, he knew that he wanted an autistic person to be the community manager. So I go into the app, I help give advice, make sure everything's running smoothly, tech support sometimes, and then I also do the social media side, and speak with people there about all kinds of things, as far as like because it's really hard putting yourself out there for dating or a new friendship, and things can happen, and so I try to help people talk about that, and so I think he knew that an autistic person was needed for this job to connect with other autistic people, because a neurotypical person would not have been able to do that as well. And so it was really cool. Yeah, if I needed to go to physical therapy, and told him my schedule there, and he was just like, your health comes first, and it was just like, what like my health comes first. Like, I'm not used to the CEO of a company telling me that, so it's been validating. It's been really cool working for a company that have those accommodations for me, and I feel really, really lucky. And I just hope that more companies can do that, and can open up and be okay with hiring neurodivergent people, because like you guys said, like some of the things that I can do in like a day that most people would take all week to do, and so I just hyper focus and get it done. And so we're awesome employees. You give us those accommodations, and we can run the stuff. So yeah, it's been awesome. But yeah, you guys check it out if you're wanting to meet new people. We're still in the building process, and new members are joining every day. So
see, and I had similar experience with an employer, the previous company I worked for before I was laid off due to COVID, my last employer, where I knew I was autistic coming on board, and the owner of the company at the time was sitting on the board of a charity with me. So they knew I was autistic, and I started out as a contractor doing some part-time work, and they're like, oh, we need more of this human in our team. And so eventually I was like, pretty quickly I became full-time, but then I was let go. But it's just COVID. You guys don't even know in last fall, but up until that point, when I was like, I need to work remote, I have these sensory issues, other do things here, we've never done that before. And the employer was like, oh, I've never done that before, tell me how. Instead of, that's not how we do things. And then moving forward, the company we built was a company that's very focused on people's mental health. Very similar to how you said, it's like, oh, mental health is first. It was like people are encouraged, like if they need to take a day for their mental health, or to speak up, hey, I'm not my best headspace right now, my mom died, or whatever's going on at home, instead of saying leave that at home, which is the very unhuman way to look at people, which are your human resource as a business, like your biggest resource, especially in consulting and corporate, where I came from, and to treat them like they're machines, when the beauty and the fact is that they are a human resource, that we need to treat them like people, and having your people actually come first. and being in a people-centric company. So there are more out there, and it's like possible to exist. And I want to like put as much pressure as I can on employers to like do the right thing and think about this, because we were a lot more productive. We collaborated more because, you know, we were struggling with things. It wasn't taboo or shameful to admit you were struggling. It's like, hey, I'm struggling. And it brings to the team. And then we had more opportunities to work together on problems for the team or for our clients, because we were collaborative and it wasn't shameful to ask for help. So all of this was beneficial to me as a neurodivergent person, to another team member who also didn't identify as neurodivergent but had some serious anxiety and mental health issues as well. So it was good for them, and it was good for everybody on the team. And then, you know, when COVID happened, it was good having those flexible schedules that I needed as a bursty employer. Was good for the parents who suddenly were teaching their children from home while they were trying to work, because then they could flex around other parents' schedules or their kids' school schedules. And so it was good for everybody to accommodate neurodivergent people. And this is something that like could magnify to bigger companies. We were a small company of less than 10 full-time plus a contract. And, you know, think about this like a large company, how much good it can do for everyone.
You broke up at the end there a little bit, but most of the time it was totally working. Yeah, I saw all of us like nodding and stuff, because it really is possible and better for everybody. With like 5 minutes to spare, I'm gonna throw it to Tiffany about another one of our sponsors.
All right. So I'm here to talk about Tiimo, TIIMO, and I've been a partner with them for about a year now, a little over a year. And it's a visual calendar app that has honestly been a great help to me and my boys. I didn't think it would work that well because I'm like the queen of calendars, but I like to write stuff and like hold it in my hands. But this app is pretty amazing. It's like I said, very visual, lots of icons, lots of pictures, lots of different, you can change the colors now. Hold on, I think I might actually, I don't know if y'all can see it. Hold on. All right, this is where I'm supposed to be. I don't know if y'all can see that, but technically I'm supposed to be leaving my desk. You can see my checklist right there. They have checklists right now. Telling me to get up. It takes me so long to get up, so I added it 3 times. So I need, so it keeps me going. And then next, I'm supposed to be, it says better start fixing the people you live with food. Because, you know, I have them issues with, you know, eating. But it has notifications, it dings every time. You can, I had a post with my son on there. He took over my little Instagram page and he was showing how he can set his calendar up on the computer, and it syncs to the app. It syncs to your phone. If you have an Apple Watch, it'll sync to your Apple Watch. I'm unsure if it syncs to Samsung watches. I'm not sure yet, but they are a really good app to use. It is a paid app, but they do have a free trial. I forgot how many weeks it is. They have a lot of neurodivergent people on their staff. They also are really receptive to any suggestions and things that you have. When I first started working with them, they had like 1.5 stars. I'm sorry I'm putting it out there like that, but they did. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I'm working with you guys. But they listened. Like I would send them emails and like, this doesn't look right. Y'all should do this, suggest this, change this. And they do that with so many other disabled people. They really do want to help. And now they got almost 5 stars. They're one of Apple's top 5 apps. They only named 5 and Tiimo's one of them. So they're doing some really good things. And I really do think that you guys would love the app, give it a chance. Yeah. Nobody.
Thank you. A few of us like me and I think that was T that were commenting on the post with JoJo. It was adorable and clever. Like that was just, yeah. I don't think I've liked an ad post as much as that. It was so cute. And that JoJo was responding to comments too. So it was just like, yeah. So before we wrap up, why don't we have 2 minutes, why don't we quick just say what we're looking forward to this weekend. I'll go first. Jersey, he, they. Tomorrow I'm going for Pride. My friend rented a boat and I don't even know the last time I've been on a boat, and we're just like going to a lake and gonna hang a Pride flag and hang out on a boat all day since everything's canceled, and sounds really fun.
This is Laura Melissa. I am also so excited for Pride this weekend, Pride weekend, and I am a little over the top, a little ridiculous. I ordered a gluten-free vegan Pride cake that I'm picking up tonight, that I actually picked out the design. So y'all should be seeing this in my Instagram story tonight or tomorrow, my Pride cake. I'm going to a Pride party Saturday night. And then Sunday, I'm going to the Pride Festival. I've got my noise cancellation loop earbuds. I've got my fidget pop. There's a sensory tent for sensory breaks. Like, I am so ready to explore and enjoy all of the Pride stuff this weekend. I even bought a Pride dress. Like, love Pride. I just have to, okay, done. Looking forward to this weekend.
I'll jump because I have a good 3 bars right now. Yay! I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere. I'm not ready to be reintroduced back into humanity yet, even though I'm vaccinated. I'm just not ready for all the people. But we're going to be in the middle of nowhere, and I've definitely got my rainbow tutu and my rainbow unicorn headphone band and all my ridiculous Pride stuff, which will be interesting in rural Texas, to say the least, in this small town. But I'm going to be near the river, so I've got a rainbow swimsuit for that too. So just hiding from humanity, but I've got all my typical fun rainbow themed stuff, because rainbows and color schemes are one of my interests, is like color schemes. If you didn't notice with me. I get to get out my rainbow stuff.
I can tell you, Asheville, here where Matt and I live, has an epic Pride festival, and so I'm sure we're going to drop by that. And Matt last time got his beard covered in glitter, so he's looking forward to doing that again because it was awesome. Everyone wanted to get their picture taken with him. It was cool. And then we're meeting up with an old friend who I've been haven't seen since I was like in my 20s, but we've stayed connected, and she just confided in me that she thinks she's autistic. So that would also explain why we stayed connected all the years. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm excited.
I am excited to have the house to myself tomorrow. And looking at Jersey's Pride t-shirt, I'm feeling a little envious. So I'm going to shop at Lyrics Pride merchandise this weekend because I was gonna man, I gotta get myself some merchandise. And I was actually trying to get a few earlier, and then need to figure out PayPal. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, T says that they have no plans for me, and I'm moving this weekend. So yeah, everyone please have loads of fun at Pride wherever you are, because that would make me very, 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 very happy.
TJ says Pride in DC has been postponed for COVID, but I will be celebrating in APIR. I'm not quite sure what that means, so I spelled it. We are usually in the parade. Oh, in spirit. Spirit was what it meant. Thank you. We are usually in the parade, so I am really missing it.
Yeah, I miss it too. I'm excited to move though, but I would be way more excited for Pride. So everyone, it's such a good time.
Anyone else want to share anything for the weekend? No pressure.
Oh, I actually think they're having some type of pride event this weekend here in Super Red, Abilene, West Texas. I'm gonna double check and see that, but I think I did see that in one of our little Facebook groups. So I'm gonna check. There's really not that many of
Not in Texas. I forget you're in Texas.
but yeah. I try to forget I'm here too.
Yeah, same. I'm trying to escape. I just can't.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of West Texas. That's what I'm trying to do. I like it. It's okay. The weather is all right. But I'm gonna try to get, if they are having one, I'm gonna try to get out and see if I can get there. My mom is still here. Oh my gosh. She's oh, she can't hear me. Oh my gosh. I'm trying. Jeez. Love her to death. Love her. But oh my gosh. And my kids won't let me be great either, but we are gonna try to leave the house. My husband works tomorrow. He's on duty. He's a warden at a prison, so he sometimes has to not be here, and I need him. But I'm gonna say if I do get out, I'll share it with you guys and see how we hold up, how we do. But I am gonna try and get out, and I really do think there's an event here, and I'm gonna try to go. If not, I'm gonna try and JoJo has some artwork on display at one of the museums here. So I'm gonna go try and see if I can get in there, get a picture of him with it and stuff. So yeah, that's my weekend.
That's so cute and like amazing that his art on display, like really amazing. Last thing, if anybody wants to contribute financially to our work, the work it takes to put this on, the work it takes as a group and individuals to do the work we do online, and just to be present here, you can contribute via Autism Career Pathways Venmo, which is it autism? Could somebody put it in the chat? There it is, ACP-2019. Whether you can give $60, $150, $10, it all adds up, and it does put, when somebody can and does contribute financially, often it means they're, kind of like invested in a group or people's work. Again, I know not everybody can, but when people can and they do, it not only does it help financially, it also has like a lot of meaning behind it. So thank you. And I'm just really happy people in the chat are talking to each other and talking to us. It means a whole lot. I hope everybody has a fantastic Pride weekend. You're all amazing. And I hope you take a break after this, everybody, all the people that have been here. So bye guys, happy Pride.